We're recording. You're listening to the Tune Up and Jam podcast. Ready? Go.
This is episode 2, Tune Up and Jam podcast, featuring David Rodgers, special guest.
Tune Up and Jam.
All right, tune up, turn up, get down, and start jamming. Once again, hello and ahoy. It's the Tune Up and Jam podcast with the Diggum crew, all the way live from the Altadena Sound Studios, just outside of Los Angeles, California. My name is Rich, and this is the Diggum crew with me here. We got Chris on my left.
Ahoy.
Ahoy. I'll talk about that one later. And to my right, we got Francis.
Hey.
And with us today is our special guest. We've got David Rodgers over there. What's up, David?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, you got it, man. And so later today, we're going to be talking about some of the main topics that we came up with based on some feedback that we already got on the website and on the Facebook page. We've got something about meeting other musicians. So how to meet other musicians. We'll be having a little discussion on that one. And I guess first I wanted to say thanks for all the Facebook likes that we got so far. After we sifted through all the junk mail and everything like that we got and all the hate mail, I noticed that we actually had some likes and some listener responses even. And so thank you, I guess, and thanks for telling somebody.
Yeah, that was amazing. If you can go out and tell somebody, somebody who's interested in music or is interested in being a musician or already is a musician or is just interested in the general workings of being a musician, please turn them on to it. And we'd love more of your suggestions and more of your influence into the show.
Yeah, and I don't think of course, all musicians, but anybody who likes music, really, for anybody.
Yeah.
But definitely, we got already some responses from some listeners who are musicians. So yeah, off to a good start. We're back for episode 2, so I guess didn't go so bad last time. So here we are again, and I guess we want to try something new this week. We want to talk about a little bit of music news, some things in the news recently. And Francis is going to take over on this one a little bit, talk about some news. Anything going on?
No, actually, well, let's just talk about one thing for now. This thing called Tidal. It's a music streaming service, I guess, owned by Jay-Z. And I believe his premise is to give back more to the musicians that are on his on the service, as opposed to the others like Spotify and Pandora. But just wanted to throw that out there, and wanted to find out from the listeners what streaming services that they're using, kind of get a sense of it, and what do you think about it? So let us know, give us some feedback on that, and or check it out. If you're familiar with Tidal, let us know what you're thinking of that service and how it's working out for you.
Has anybody here used it?
I haven't. I have not used it. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's pretty new in the news, I guess. Like I've always used Spotify or Pandora.
Yeah.
They've worked for me pretty well. But
Yeah, I've used Spotify myself, but it's making the headlines. It was, a couple days ago, Prince did a concert. They streamed a live concert from him in Baltimore. So we caught a little bit of that. Rich and I did.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was pretty cool.
Minutes,
But yeah, I'm not too familiar with the service, so just kind of wondering what you guys are listening to out there. If you're using Pandora, Spotify, or anything else.
And I think, well, go ahead.
I was going to say on a side note, if you ever have the opportunity to listen to Prince or see him perform especially, oh my God, you need to go do that immediately. Whether or not you're familiar with his music or you think you might like it or not, just as a musician and a performer, he is unbelievable.
If you just want to see a show,
Yeah, he's amazing.
what are you waiting for? Yeah, seriously. We saw him, what was that, a couple years ago whenever he played in L.A.?
Yeah,
he
did those shows.
$25 a show or something.
Yeah, those
like
shows
that.
at the Forum were sick. They're ridiculous.
Sick. So yeah, I guess we've actually had some responses on the website already. Some people have written in from several different places. We're kind of, even from all the way out there in Guam, I believe we had a listener response, yeah?
Oh, yeah, beautiful island of Guam.
Beautiful. Are you familiar
Yeah,
with that place?
Yeah, actually.
I'm
yeah,
interested to
yeah.
hear y'all's response to this particular query. Also,
Which query?
the from the listener Dane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got a response from a question from Dane on the website, Dane M. And he says, is it best to leave a note unresolved to leave you on the edge of your seat, or to satisfy the ear and resolve. And
What's the context of that?
exactly. That's the question.
I mean, the answer is yes and no.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the song. I've heard it both ways in several songs, and just depending on how it's laid out and what the context of it is, it's going to make all the difference in the world. I don't think necessarily one's better than the other.
Yeah,
Interestingly, when I read the question, I thought of it for the end of a song.
that's what I thought too.
I was thinking for the end of a song.
Yeah,
And it's funny because it seems like I've been in so many bands that resolve everything and have the big ending. I kind of like that unresolved, like,
Do you think it needs to have a purpose at all, or can it just be, why not?
boy, I don't have much purpose when it comes to music. The purpose of music to me is what sounds good at that particular moment.
so you're talking about the context lyrically.
Well, yeah, I guess I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, if the type of song or what the lyrics are about, does that make a difference? Does it make more sense to do it whenever it's some sort of a chaotic or heartbreaking or whatever type of song? Does it make more sense to unresolve something at the end and leave it just kind of hanging out there? Or?
I mean, there's something kind of cool about just letting it unresolved, just hang out there.
Yeah,
But I mean, if you hear like 5, I mean, how many times have we heard 5-1?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you know where it's going.
yeah, we're just kind of safe.
I think that's a good point, though. We've just heard it a billion
Yeah,
times.
something new.
Yeah.
And maybe there are some people out there don't really understand what it means to resolve, though. Maybe we should talk about what it means to resolve the note. Does anybody have a good way of explaining that?
Well,
I am a drummer, by the way, so
I think the 5-1 is a perfect example. And when by the way, this is David Rodgers, who is
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was
chiming in.
allowed to.
No, yeah,
let's talk.
chime
Yeah.
in, talk.
Yeah.
We're talking about if whatever key you're in, if that particular note is the 1, and then the 5 would be the 5th note in that particular scale.
I think another way to describe it is tension. If you have this tension building up, like 5 would be the
That's
chord that would provide the most tension, and it's almost like taking inhaling and then ending it right there, as opposed to resolving to the 1 where it allows you to exhale.
That's a good way.
If you think of a lot of blues songs, and with that walk up to a 5 and resolve on the 1,
Yeah.
and kind of hanging out on that 5, or just stopping there, or getting weird and maybe even going somewhere else off the spectrum there is great. But I wonder, from a pop song standpoint, where people like to hear these formulaic things that they recognize, while it's pleasing, it's not always pleasing to musicians, but sometimes it's pleasing to people en masse. So that's a good question, Dane M.
I think it's a little open-ended, and I think it's really subjective.
Is it unresolved?
Is this topic unresolved? I think it is.
Yeah, I don't think there is any right or wrong answer to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just comes down to what you feel like, or
Just like music in general.
yeah. But I mean, definitely try it out live. Try one way or another, and see what the response is to it. Also, see what other people think about it. But ultimately, it's yours. So do with it what you want, huh?
Yep.
Word.
Well, we do have, as stated earlier, David Rodgers here with us.
Hello.
He's our first bona fide guest on the Tune Up and Jam podcast, sitting right directly in front of our beautiful new banner,
This is
which
impressive.
says Tune Up and Jam podcast on it. And you're the first person to grace it, right in front of it. You're there.
Well,
And,
we'll have to take a snapshot and post it on the
It's got to
website.
autograph it. Got to
Yeah.
autograph it.
You got a golden Sharpie.
Yeah, you'll see it if if you go to the website and video, or check out the photos, or if we put any videos, you'll see it up there. And we're not lying about this. It's beautiful. Francis is the one in charge of that one. But anyway, we got David here. So David is a local musician, right? From the area, which
Yeah,
from
I was
LA?
born and raised in Pasadena, and I know Chris over here.
Uh-huh.
He was my teacher, and I worked for him last year at summer school in a garage band class,
Nice.
incidentally. So, now I'm over in Nashville studying at Vanderbilt University, studying piano,
Nice,
and halfway done. I got 2 years down, two to go.
nice. How do you like it over there in Nashville?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Really, this year, it's sort of a bunch of opportunities started opening up for me, and things have just sort of begun falling into place, and it's really exciting.
Getting like bands and stuff like that? Or
Yeah,
is it-
getting gigs, getting opportunities. I was able to arrange a couple pieces for our big band. I'm a classically trained pianist, but jazz is really where my passion is. So play a lot of jazz. And so for the big band, we actually had Jeff Coffin, who's the saxophone player for Dave Matthews Band,
Nice.
come in, and I arranged one of his pieces for him, and he performed it with us at our final concert, which was super cool. And I got to talking to him afterwards and sent him a thank you email. He gave me his number, and I don't know. He texted me. He asked me to come over to his house to jam.
No kidding.
It's just been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. A bunch of things have opened up, and it's really exciting over there. There's a lot to do.
A little background on David. When he was in school, he was in the jazz band and did a lot of wonderful things. And Rich, as a teacher, you see young musicians all the time of varied interest in music and varied talent. And it's pretty evident right away that Dave had quite a bit of talent. And last summer, I was teaching a garage band class, which actually Francis came in and was a guest lecturer.
That's right.
On microphones. That's
I remember that.
another episode. And David came on and helped out a bunch. And then, of course, like we do with all young musicians who have a bunch of talent, we kind of pimp them out a little bit and hire them for gigs and don't pay them nearly as much as we probably should. And hired them to arrange a song for Melissa, who's
That's right.
kind of hummed it into a phone. And I gave it to David during class, and he sat down and just played it out. So, and then played a gig with them and everything else. So,
That would be Melissa Wixon.
yeah, Melissa Wixon, who was a friend of ours who we're recording with some stuff, and he did a fantastic job. But David, how old are you now?
I'm 20.
David's 20 years old, so he's a little bit different age than the other three of us, a little bit younger. So it'll be really interesting.
Just a
Yeah,
little.
year or two. Come on, no.
I got a couple more months.
You're catching up. So you said you were classically trained, but your true love is jazz.
Yeah.
Did you cross over from classical into jazz, or did you kind of do them both concurrently?
Well, I started taking lessons when I was 4. A lot of kids take piano. I mean, almost everyone takes piano lessons these days. And my mom just really started off wanting me to take lessons as some sort of discipline, besides school. And I started playing the piano, had a great, little old lady teacher who taught me until I was about 13. And then I switched over to a more serious teacher. Around the time I was like 11 or so, that's when I started picking up jazz, just really listening to stuff. I liked what I heard and just sort of played around. I had a pretty good ear, so I'd play around on the piano, try to figure out what a lot of that stuff was, and just really started enjoying it. And so it's something I just pursued. I didn't really have a teacher until I came to Vanderbilt and sort of self-taught up until that point. But no, classical music is something that's always been with me. I audition places with classical music, and that's why I'm at Vanderbilt, actually. They gave me a full scholarship for piano performance, which is classical piano. But we have a nice little jazz program there, and it's really picking up. We have a great director who's done a lot with the program in just his first year here, and it's really taken off. It's pretty exciting.
So Whiplash, basically. Yes, no. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking
Did
about.
you guys see that movie?
I saw that.
Whiplash?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The chair.
I haven't
You
seen
haven't
it.
seen it yet?
No.
Have you had the chair yet?
No, I'm pretty good at dodging. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it hits the sax players behind you or the bass player or whatever, right? Yeah. Well, that's cool. Because I've known some people who were, classically trained, and they were excellent at the classical music or reading. Could sight read immediately, but then when it came to like the improv part of doing some jazz or whatever, they were just kind of unsure of really what to do. And that's where I guess my question was coming from. Like, do you find it difficult? Did you find that difficult?
No, not really. I mean, I started with the Suzuki method, which is, I don't want to get too technical, but that method really stresses the ear training. So before you learn a piece from the music, you listen to it a bunch, and they have all these, little cute little CDs that go with the books, and so you listen to the tune, whatever, like Mary Had a Little Lamb or something. you listen to that a bunch of times, and then that's supposed to help you learn the piece easier, and that's the case for me. And so right from the start, my ear was getting more training than my sight reading. Luckily, you know, I've had church gigs where I've had to sight read a bunch for a number of years, so that sort of caught up. And so now I'd say I can do both pretty proficiently, evenly. But yeah, you know, that's too bad these days. A lot of classical players aren't able to tap into the improvisatory side of things.
And I think maybe it's an interest thing as well. Like you happen to be interested in both.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe not everybody who's doing classical is really interested in crossing over into the jazz
Yeah, I mean, that's
scene or
possible. I
something
mean,
like
I've
that.
talked to
Could
some
be-
of my friends who are in the classical program with me, and
Mhm.
they say, you know, I love to improvise. I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I tell them, you know, just start playing, see what happens, and use your ear, listen. And I guess that's just a foreign concept to a lot of people because they've never really been sort of forced down that road or led down that road.
I'm always amazed with sometimes those cats who do have more training and know all their scales and everything. Why it is so difficult when
Right.
you can just play around in that scale.
Right. I mean, it's like you have all the information in front of you.
You have it all there.
And
You
you're
have all
just
the
not-
backlog.
You're not
Versus like me who you know just kind of honestly recently started learning more than a major scale and just tried to play what sounded right, but
Yeah.
not knowing really why that might sound right. So
I've always found it interesting where people talk about improvising, and they always want to know what to play and what to play. But part of it too is the more you do it, you learn what not to play.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
dig
it's-
it.
I was going to say when I started learning on the trumpet, so I kind of did the whole thing like learning how to read and everything like
Yeah.
that. But if I'm like that. If you asked me to improvise on a trumpet or something like that, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like you said, I know the scales and everything like that, but I'd never crossed over into that part of it. I mean, jazz drumming is one thing, yeah, but like
Yeah.
trumpet playing.
Well, I think part of it is also what type of music you listen to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I was listening to a lot of jazz, and that's, you know, you hear improvisation, whereas if these people only listen to classical music or rock or other forms where almost everything's predetermined, everything's almost written out,
Right.
then you're not even forced to think that way. It's it's a mindset, I think.
And it's kind of weird that I say trumpet because it's a big jazz instrument, but I was in concert band, so like
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Yeah. That just to clarify that makes
Sure,
more sense that way.
sure.
Yeah. So, what was I going to ask you? I was going to ask him a question. Ask him a question.
I want to ask him about his gear because I know last summer we were kind of coming up with keyboards wherever. Poly Jazz Room. Thank you, Rob Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Rob Hayes.
Shout out to Rob
That's
Hayes,
right.
who's great. Also a Michigan guy. I'm gonna give him that shout out. But I understand you got some new gear now.
I do.
What'd you
I do.
get?
I picked up a Nord Electro 4D over Christmas break. Sort of my Christmas present to myself.
What a wonderful Christmas! That's just the start of something beautiful that
it's
will
great.
drive your future wife
Well,
crazy.
something dangerous too, because I didn't realize I got one keyboard and now I want another. I think I have an addictive personality, so there's so many keyboards out there now.
That Nord does everything, though, right? I mean,
Almost
that
everything.
thing is like almost the industry standard now.
It is. It's a beautiful piece of technology.
So tell us with the Nord, with the particular Nord you have. I'm just going to go down a little bit of a list here.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to start with my favorite part of the keys. So I'm going to start with like Hammond B3 organ sound. What do you think?
Pretty good. I mean, it has the way it's set up. It has an organ section and then everything else section.
So it has sliders.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's set up exactly like. I'll break it out later and show you
Nice,
guys. Yeah,
nice.
It's beautiful.
Okay, so we got the organ section's pretty darn good.
Oh, it's great.
Okay, how about just acoustic piano?
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, all the instrumental sounds they're good. I think it's really known for the organ sound.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does a great job for everything else, and you can load sounds from the computer onto the instrument yourself, and you can customize your own sounds and download sounds. So there's really an endless possibility of
You know
sounds.
it's interesting though because you've been able to do that on keyboards. I remember in I probably 1988 my father's a musician. We got an Ensoniq ESQ,
Okay.
which at the time cost more than like our car.
Yeah, I won't even ask.
It was ridiculous, and it had digital sounds and
Sure.
all this that we're supposed to be able to mimic. And of course, if you go back and listen to an Insonic ESQ from 1988, right now nobody would play that darn thing. But the Nord has seemed to be pretty good. Synth sounds. I mean, I don't know how
Pretty
much you
good.
play with synth sounds. Pretty good.
Yeah.
String sounds.
Yeah, good string sounds.
How about like a Rhodes electric piano?
Yeah, I mean the electric piano's decent. I mean it's not a Rhodes though.
So let me ask you, in terms of the gear, then, if you were to look at another keyboard right now, which you're a musician, so you have,
Of course I am. Yeah.
what would it be? What would the next one be?
Oh, man, I don't.
What do you pair
I
with
was-
the Nord?
I was looking at a Moog. I don't know. A lot of people say Moog. Moog. It's Moog. If anyone's wondering, they have a little keyboard, 37 key keyboard, but it's a cool piece of technology. It's got an interface with a ton of dials, and basically there's no buttons to like change sounds. You change the sound with the dial. So you play a sound. It's a synth. It's
Yeah,
a synth.
yeah.
It's like a Moog sub fatty 37 or something like that.
For those listening, and I could be completely wrong because I'm not a keyboard player, but I believe Moog
Yeah.
was the first like polymorphic
I think so.
synthesizer with buttons and all
It's
this,
cool, and
had
dials and-
NASA technology from 1968 or something like
Oh,
that.
it's
Just
it
craziness.
looks so cool and it sounds.
Yeah, it looks like
fluid.
you could literally launch a missile into Russia with
Yeah.
this synthesizer.
It's
It
incredible.
looks so cool.
Yeah,
I would have it just because it looks cool.
yeah, that's partially why I wanted.
Just hold on. Do any of your keyboards have Magic Key? Because that was my favorite on my grandma's organ. Remember the Magic Key where you could hold it down and play chords for you? And a little thing like that.
yeah.
Remember?
Oh,
Just one
the,
one key.
The Moog has something that'll do like arpeggiator for you.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's
nice.
more than
pretty cool.
magic. It's extra magic. Well, I wanted to ask you because we have hopefully a lot of younger listeners as well who
Sure.
are probably in a position that you were in not too long ago. Still in school playing whatever learning. What was like the process as you grew like through high school playing, learning, getting better, and then deciding to go to Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to go to Vanderbilt first of all?
Well, initially I wanted to double major, like a lot of naive high school seniors. I wanted to double major with computer science and music, and coming from a school like Poly, it seemed feasible. That incredible academics and the music side of things was pretty intensive as well. But I tried that first year, took a couple computer science courses, and just realized it wasn't for me. But really, to answer your question, it was the prospect of doing music and something else, and doing it at a great university. It's a top 20 university and great city in Nashville, music city.
Yeah, that can't
There
be
you go.
discounted. The whole Nashville part of it.
That's
If
Yeah.
if for the listeners, if you've never been to Nashville and you are a music lover, it has to be on your bucket list. And I don't think
Yeah.
Nashville personally gets enough credit in the world at large. I know in country music, people think of Nashville as just country music a lot.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Sure. It's more than just country.
Oh my Lord, there's
Yeah.
just fantastic players in Nashville. Just unbelievable.
So what was the process of like getting into Vanderbilt? I'm sure you had to do some sort of auditions or something like that. To
Yeah.
get
So
there?
for the music, I only applied to 3 schools for music. Everything else was academics. Because at that time, I wasn't sure if music was going to be part of my future. I mean, I knew I would always play. I wasn't sure if I was going to be a musician, though, professionally. So I auditioned there, I think, last weekend of January. I had a audition requirement. So they say, like a Bach prelude and fugue, a Beethoven sonata, a romantic piece, a contemporary, like an impressionistic piece, 20th or 21st century. And yeah, so you just fly in, you go to your audition day, they give you a time, and you play for the piano faculty, and then they give you your decision. I remember I was driving to school, and I get this email that says, you've been accepted and you've been awarded the Cornelius Vanderbilt Scholarship, which is a full scholarship. And I just like, holy crap, I guess this is it.
Was that the first time you'd ever auditioned for anything?
It was my first audition.
Wow.
Really?
First college audition. I mean, I've auditioned for, competitions and
Yeah.
other programs before, but it was my very first college audition. And I remember right after my audition, it went really well. And out of the 3 places I auditioned, I still think it was my best. And after that, I remember I went and sat down on a bench and texted my piano teacher back home. And I said, I think I may have found a new home.
Nice.
Because, it was a place that really resonated with me. The people were so generous and hospitable. Southern hospitality, it is a thing. And if you haven't experienced it yet, you better.
A lot different than
Wow.
Southern California
Much
hospitality.
different. Much different, It's like night and day.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. We don't get that Southern hospitality too much around here.
I've
Except
auditioned
with
for,
us.
I've auditioned for things in L.A. and them not even said goodbye as I walked out the door. They just pointed.
Out.
Yeah.
Just go. Just
That's
go.
the direction right there.
Just
Out.
go.
Yeah. Thank you. There's your hospitality. All right. Well, I guess we had some listeners who sent some things onto the website, and there was one of the discussion questions that we thought might be something we can all talk about here, which was how to meet other musicians. Francis, am I correct in saying this and setting this up properly from what was sent to the website?
In fact, we received an email. In fact, the email is from Ram. He's from the beautiful island of Guam. He was talking about, wondering if we could organize something or come up with something where musicians could meet other musicians, and he's interested in putting another band together. He's had a couple bands in the past, and currently looking to form another band, and so figured this would be a great topic to cover. In particular, just for if you are a singer or a drummer in Guam and you're looking for a band, you want to start a band, and particularly Ram, what he's into, he's into some rock. He's into, let's say, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rage Against the Machine, some Metallica.
His name is Ram.
Ram.
Naturally. This fits good.
It's got some
I
range.
like that.
Yeah. Nirvana, Incubus, Stone Temple Pilots. So if you are a singer and a drummer on the island of Guam, hit us up. We'll get you in touch with Ram, and maybe you guys could do something really, really cool. But it does bring us to the topic of meeting other musicians, and how would we go about that?
Get out there, play. Go to concerts, play gigs, play for people. If you have someone you want to play with, go to their concert.
Yeah.
Go to their, if they're playing a gig, go to that gig.
Yeah.
And talk to them. Talk to people.
Yeah, I think the obvious thing is if you're going to meet other musicians, it starts with your musician friends. The people that play, and if they know somebody that plays.
Right. I think contextually it's different. When I lived in Michigan, because I knew a lot of people, my dad was a musician, I already knew musicians, and then was introduced to other musicians through musicians, and threw it out that I wanted to play and got gigs like that. That's not always the case, though. For instance, all of us moved to L.A. as not being Los Angeles natives. So, like Rich, you moved to L.A.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up meeting musicians?
I did the old school music recycler, put an ad in saying that I was a drummer available, and I also was looking for other people who were available. Just started contacting people the old-fashioned way, and what you do is you talk to them, and then you set up a place where you can maybe just kind of jam together. It's, I guess, an audition, so to say. But that's basically how we did it then. But now you can still do that with like Craigslist.
Yeah, what is the musician recycler? I don't even know what that is.
Well, it used to be. It was a classified publication.
Was it a newsletter like type thing?
No, it was. I think it was strictly classifieds.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that, for those who already know the history of Metallica, that's pretty much where Metallica was born. Lars put an ad in the recycler, and I think James did too. And the way they tell the story, like they were the only two in this heavy metal section of the ad, and so they figured, well, they'd be the ones stuck up. But it was in the recycler.
It must not have been in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
No, it was everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what it was, in general, it was kind of like, remember, the old penny savers?
Mm-hmm.
There was that whole thing. It was kind of like that, where it had a bunch of different, you could buy appliances, you could buy, cars. There was all kind of different things, like couches.
Huge car section.
Okay.
Couches.
So, okay.
But then there was a music, it was a pretty large music classified section as well.
So this is not this is old school. This is not topical today.
Well, if we're talking about it, just think of it as a paper version of Craigslist.
Right.
So now
pre-Craigslist.
most people who just want to just start something and they don't know anybody, they'll just start with the classifieds, and one of the obvious choices is Craigslist.
Which, not coincidentally, is how the three of us ended up meeting each other
That's true.
at different times. But
That's true.
was through Craigslist. But I can say after moving to Los Angeles cold and not really knowing anybody in Los Angeles, Craigslist can also be a really interesting gauntlet to go through. And
it does test your patience.
You definitely meet some characters, and at some point we have to go through like our funniest auditions and our funniest times, because I have some doozies where literally I thought I was on candid camera.
Let's save that for a future episode. But because it does get a little crazy and frustrating. That's why you really have to have some patience. And again, if you're coming in cold into a town and you don't know anybody, there's other ways to do it as well. It's not just online Craigslist. You can find out where the open jams are. There's always an open jam somewhere, and especially the bigger cities.
Have you done a bunch of open jams?
I've done a couple.
Yeah.
I've done a couple.
Rich?
Yeah, I've done a couple here. Some, back in Pittsburgh where I'm from. But, I know somebody who does a open jam around here. Done a couple of times. You meet some people. There's always a lot of characters that go there too sometimes, and it's kind of like kind of hit and miss. But you'll definitely meet people there, that's for sure. What about, David? Well, you live in Nashville. There's got to be all kind of jam sessions
I'm
down
fortunate
there.
enough to be a music student, so of course, I've always got musicians and friends around me, so we can jam. But there are jams, and there's something called the Nashville Jazz Workshop, which is out on the other side of Nashville. But it's a great meeting point for a bunch of young, old, anyone who wants to come and play.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the second Sunday of every month. It's just an open jam session for 2 hours. You write your name down. You show up. You write your name down on a piece of paper, and they just call you your name. You go up there. You play with whoever else is up there.
Yeah, that's another way to do it, I guess. And even churches, you can always there's always some churches to go to. What's that?
There's always musicians in churches.
Yeah.
Count on that.
You go there and if you're looking to meet musicians, and I think we even talked. Francis and I were kind of mentioning this the other day. Who wants to talk to musicians more than other musicians?
Yeah.
So in other words, you see a guy walking down the street and he's got a guitar strapped on his back, go talk to him.
Absolutely.
If anything,
I have to say, honestly, if I had my guitar with me for wherever I was going, let's say I'm going to a gig or from a gig, and I don't want to leave the guitar in the car, so I'm strap it on my back, walk into a store or walk into wherever I need to go. I have met so many people, just them coming up to me saying, "Hey, so is that a guitar? Is that a bass? What kind of guitar?" And conversations that I'd strike up with people, and it's a really, really, it's amazing how many people can just meet through just cold conversations out of nowhere, just because, hey, look, this guy's a musician. Hey, it could be interesting, and see where that can go. But I would say even if you're shy, consider that that approach. If it's somebody you think that is into music, doesn't even have to be a guitar case. It could be anything. Pair of drumsticks in the back of his pocket.
You
Who knows?
could even increase your chances tenfold by hanging out in a music store. And you're pretty sure most of the people coming in there are going to be musicians, and they get to kind of audition for you because everybody likes to go to Guitar Center and just rock out for a little bit and just play whatever instrument is on display and grab stuff. So that's another great way you can go and just meet cats and see what they're interested in, what they're into.
Yeah, but I totally agree with what David mentioned too. But just go to live shows.
Yeah.
Other musicians watch other musicians too. They love it, and there's just so many at live shows and the local live shows. I'm not necessarily talking about the big arena concerts. We're just talking about the local clubs.
Especially the smaller shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where they usually do like meet and greets afterwards.
Yeah.
And there's a chance, some of those guys are the most down-to-earth people. You never know unless you go talk to them. And, who knows? You may be able to play with them.
I used to do that too. In San Francisco, if there would be a small show, somebody, really impressed me with their playing, I was always talk to them afterwards and just say, hey, so what kind of gear, why are you using this? And, not that, or what made you choose this guitar, or what made you do this and that. It's just they're always open to the conversation. So
Yeah, and the flip side, if you're playing a gig and cats come up to you and approach you with that, be open, have a conversation. And of course, for everybody, it's what point of their life they're in. But, a good friend of mine was playing a gig, and a guy came up to the other guitar player playing and asked him if he was interested in playing in a different band. And it wasn't, he was kind of busy. And then he went up to my friend and said, "Are you interested?" And he ended up playing with Ike Turner for like 4 or 5 years and had just a great experience in it, musically and socially and everything else. Ended up being a really good experience. So you got to be open to.
That's a really, really good
and
point.
Available.
I really think that's a really good point to not overlook, is to really be open-minded about the situations, especially other genres of music. If you open your mind about that, and even considering if you don't have anything going for you now, and there's an offer to play with a particular band that it may not be your favorite, but you think could be fun at least. Start there. Who knows what opportunities that could afford you?
Yeah.
Doors that could open. I mean, Rich and I we talked about this. I mean, number one, it could improve your musicianship. I mean, if you're sitting at home practicing one style, one thing, you want to write this, epic album in this particular genre, and you're stuck there. Well, I mean, great if you can do that. But if you want to get out there and play and get some real experience, keep an open mind about the opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, I'd say never turn down a gig, no matter what. I mean, I just played a carpenter's gig over in North Carolina. I play classical and jazz.
Great.
I didn't even know who the Carpenters were. I get this phone call, and the woman asked me, "Hey, you're interested in subbing for me? We're playing the Carpenters." And I Wikipedia Carpenters, Richard and Karen Carpenter. Who are these people? I had no idea, and it was a blast. We played like 20 of their songs for a packed auditorium full of people who look like they could be my grandparents.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
And it was. I just had the best time. And I met 8 great musicians who I otherwise wouldn't have met.
Right.
And now I'm Facebook friends with all of them, and we're gonna keep in touch. And who knows, maybe I'll do it again.
Exactly.
But not only did I get exposed to this music, which it's good music. I like it.
And the greater network that you can have of players and other musicians, it can only be beneficial.
Yeah.
Just going into it with an open mind and being a professional, and saying, maybe I'm not into this music, maybe I never even listened to it, or maybe I don't even like it. Can be an educational experience where you learn something new.
But even the musicians that you're playing with, let's just say in that particular situation, they might not be into that, let's just say this other project or this other type of genre that you're into, but they may know somebody.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I know somebody into that same thing too, and they could hook you up there, but you really wouldn't have gotten into that conversation if you just didn't open your mind and kind of pursue whatever the musical situation was at the time.
And I'm thinking, whenever you're set in that one genre that you're kind of sticking to, I'm staying rock, or I'm staying metal, or whatever it is, when you eliminate all those other things, you got to remember, no matter what genre of music you're into, eventually the goal is to play live, to play for people, to play with other people, play with other musicians, to record. And if you're into, a country, and that's all you want to do is country, and then somebody approaches you, says, "Hey, I got this rock gig, or I got this jazz gig, or whatever it is," do it, because even if you're sticking with that for a while, even if you get into that and you got to put your thing on the side for a little bit, eventually you are going to play with people. You're going to be in front of other people. You're going to be playing live. You're going to be playing with other musicians. You might go into the studio, and all of that stuff.
You might shoot a video.
All of those things are going to be priceless experiences for you when you finally do get to whatever it is you want to do. So
I think the truth is, for many musicians, you never really know where the big break is going to come from. And I'm not talking about necessarily like fame and fortune type of break, but just for the next successful moment in your career.
Yeah, or learning experience. I mean, that's as musicians, I think that's kind of our never-ending quest is to continue to improve as musicians and to be on the never-ending quest for tone. So if it can help with either of those things, go for it.
Now, with all that said, there is you got to be, I guess, honest with yourself about the size of the town that you live in. Perhaps you live in a very, very small town where there's just not going to be as many people into as many things. Let's just say like Los Angeles, Nashville, New York. You guess you have to consider, you have to ask yourself the big question. Are you willing to move?
Yeah.
Or what are you willing to pursue? I mean, do you want to just play the weekend bar gig? Do you want to take it to the next level? You really have to ask yourself the hard questions and make the big decisions. So, I mean, all these things that we're talking about don't necessarily apply to, the super small town.
No, not necessarily, but I was very surprised, to be honest, because I started playing music in a fairly small community of musicians. And I was shocked when I moved to Los Angeles and found out that it wasn't full of... There's a million amazing musicians in Los Angeles, but there's also 9 million not great musicians. And I was kind of stunned by that in some of the audition times, and appreciated more also, just giving my little shout out for Northern Michigan, with the number of super talented people. They're everywhere. Yeah. They're everywhere, but you have to be willing to kind of do a little bit of research and get out and meet people, and sometimes that's not comfortable. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to get out and push and play some things you don't know, to kind of get your foot in the door there. But there's amazing musicians everywhere. But I agree with you. You have much more limited opportunities to kind of maybe play on the bigger event stage than you would in a larger city.
Well, and something else that just occurred to me is, put yourself up out on social media. I mean, we have, Facebook and YouTube. There's all these YouTube stars that just started out as some dude in his home studio recording himself singing, and now he's a big YouTube star, and all these people are wanting him to, guest appear with this band on this show, with this person,
Absolutely.
that person. Put yourself out there, not just in real life, definitely in real life, but also take advantage of social media, the internet, technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a different world now than it was, quite a few years ago.
Even 5-10 years ago. Wasn't that how Justin Bieber even got his start? I think he was initially a YouTube star and just kind of
I think there's a lot of great stories. Even the singer of Journey.
That's right.
That's right. Discovered on YouTube. I mean, of course, we're talking about Arnel, the Filipino singer.
Yeah, I think
came
he
into
was
Journey. He was
in like a cover band, right?
I think Neil Sean saw a video of him, and they were looking for a singer, and it just worked out.
It's kind of like Rockstar. You can be Mark.
Yeah.
Wahlberg.
So I guess the big lesson is put yourself out there, do what you can. I mean, if you're really wanting it, you're going to find ways to get yourself out there.
Absolutely.
And as a musician, you sometimes have to step out of your comfort zone, whether it's socially or musically, if you want to make things happen. Otherwise you could be sitting in the basement for a while. But you got to practice too. You got to.
Yeah. So if there's anything we missed, hit us up. Let us know. Hit us an email on Facebook. Go to our website. Let us know what you guys think. If there's anything we missed, but also we kind of figured, well, what could we do? At least our little small part in this whole thing. We just created a forum on the website, tuneupandjam.com. So there's a forum page where you guys could just register and put up your thoughts, put up your ads for seeking other musicians, etc., anything you want. So we figured we'd do that little thing and see what can come of it, and hopefully that'll be helpful to you guys.
Yeah, and put some links up there too for some samples of how you're playing, what you want to play. People like to hear what might be coming their way. So put that up on the website, tuneupandjam.com. We also the email at tuneupandjam.com.
It's actually podcast at tuneupandjam.com.
That's what I meant. That's what I said the first time.
Yeah.
It's recorded, right?
Yeah, I wasn't listening. Yeah.
Podcast at tuneupandjam.com. That's the email. So yeah, we're trying to just do our little part here and connect everybody if we can. So
Well, I've been dying since I've seen these lightning round questions.
Yeah.
I've been dying to have a guest in here that you could ask these to in a lightning round sense. And David doesn't have these in front of him. And just to get his honest, like, first answer, first thing that comes into your brain, feedback
This ought to be fun.
of the lightning round. Can we do that, Francis?
You are
Go
the
for it.
guinny
Go for
pig
it.
right now.
Go for it.
This is
We'll wrap up with the lightning round.
Okay.
we'll wrap up with the lightning round, and this is we don't know how it's gonna go, so we'll just try. Do you want to take turns asking questions, or how do you want to do this? We're gonna
Yeah.
be having a clock. We said we have some kind of a clock, maybe 1 minute to get through this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or are we
We'll just
gonna
go for it.
through
1
them?
minute,
All
as
right.
many questions we can get.
All right, I'll start with the first one. Okay, what's the most recent song that you chose to listen to? This is a lightning round. Remember, think fast.
Oh man, I just watched a Snarky Puppy concert in Paris this morning. Snarky Puppy, look them up if you don't know them.
Okay. What song do you like that you don't want to admit to?
I won't
Which
admit.
now you have to.
Oh man, some of Beyonce stuff. I don't know.
Okay. Won't pass any judgment. Which artist would you most like to perform or record with?
Mike League out of Snarky Puppy. Jazz fusion group.
What was the most recent concert that you attended?
Stevie Wonder at Nashville Bridgestone Arena.
Okay, which band that's no longer around would you have liked to have seen live?
Return to Forever, Chick Corea.
Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
Favorite pickup line? We're pretty juvenile sometimes, I guess.
Oh man, I don't do pickup lines.
Oh, you don't
I-
meet him. He plays piano.
My
He's a
pickup
musician.
line is playing piano.
There
There,
you
we
go.
go.
Most embarrassing moment?
Ever?
This could be ever. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be musically.
Man. Maybe now, not knowing my embarrassing moment.
Ever been caught talking to yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you play that one off?
You got me.
Pretend you're singing or just like,
All right, let's spare the guys.
all right, there we go. Yeah, that's
Come
it
on,
for
come
everybody.
That's over a minute.
So I got one more question for you, though. What do you got
Yeah.
coming up? Like, you got summer off now. You said you just got back from
Yeah, that's
Vanderbilt.
right.
So what do you got coming up this summer?
I'm in
What do you-
town for about a month. I'm playing a couple gigs here in town, and then I'm playing on a cruise ship this summer in Hawaii with Norwegian Cruise Lines as the pianist. So, yeah, about 6-7 weeks out in the Hawaiian Islands playing whatever they tell me to play. 5-piece band, and then I guess I'm playing cocktail hour, solo jazz piano or whatever.
That's got to suck.
That's gonna be terrible.
Suck so bad.
Yeah, there's
Hawaii.
terrible.
That's awful on a cruise ship.
So where can people find you if they want to lick you up? You on any social media?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook. I'm on David M. Rodgers. I'm on Facebook. Feel free to message me or add me. I'm not too picky. On YouTube, you know, I don't know what my YouTube channel is these days, but if you search me, David Rodgers piano or
There's
jazz
this thing
piano.
called Google. We can find you.
Yeah, give it a shot.
I will say, if you are in the greater Los Angeles area over the next month and you're looking for a guy to come fill in on keys, Google David Rodgers. Look him up. He has the Tune Up and Jam podcast endorsement stamp. Boom.
Boom. And if you happen to be on the Norwegian cruise,
There you
make
go.
sure you tip them.
Please, much appreciated.
Come on, tip
Much
the
needed.
musicians. All right. Well, I guess that's about it for episode 2. We're going to start wrapping up here. We do want you guys to feedback. Email us at podcast@tuneupandjam.com. Check us out at Facebook. Please tell some other people about us. You know, spread the word. We're having a great time. We're hoping you listening to us, and want to thank David Rodgers for stopping by once again.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, man.
It's
and
fun.
I think that's about it. Let's wrap it up here. What do you say, guys?